Welcome to the show. Glad to have you with us here today. It is finally Friday, baby. It is here. We are ready for an exciting weekend. Notre Dame and USC. We get them one last guaranteed time. Hopefully, we get them again sometime in the future. But as of right now, the game Saturday night is the final guaranteed time. Notre Dame and Southern Cal, two old rivals, will go head-to-head at Notre Dame Stadium. And you will hear it right here on Sports Radio WSBT, as well as the Odyssey app, AUDACY, and the Notre Dame Radio Network. Game day coverage with the Game Day Show begins at 3 o'clock at the Linebacker, 3 to 6:30 Eastern Time. Tim Grau, Jim Irizarry, Eric Hansen, Tyler Horka, they'll all be there. They've got some great guests lined up for this week's show. I mean, why wouldn't you when you've got Notre Dame and Southern Cal playing? You got former Notre Dame and Indianapolis Colts safety Matthias Farley, former Fighting Irish linebackers Torian Smith and Carlo Calabrese as well. They will all be there. So join them at the Linebacker, 3 to 6:30. And, of course, you can hear it right here on Sports Radio WSBT. We have begun a new tradition on Fridays going into home weekends. We've got Notre Dame recruiting kind of preview of what's going on. And the first big recruiting weekend this season was the primetime game, the first primetime game, the home opener, Notre Dame and Texas A&M. Notre Dame had a slew of recruits in town for that game, and it sounds like this weekend is going to be no different. Trevor Trowbridge, our man from Irish Breakdown, is pinch hitting, doing a little Notre Dame football recruiting talk for this weekend. Are you ready to go? You ready to just tee it up and tee off on some recruiting talk, Trevor?
Stay ready. You never have to get ready, Sean. You can't get rid of me this week.
That's right. Day 3.
Oh,
Sean Stiers, Trevor Trowbridge. It's recruiting talk, though, today. They had a lot of guys on campus for that A&M game that I mentioned, Trevor. How does this weekend compare to that one, do you think?
Yeah, definitely another huge recruiting weekend for Notre Dame. And in some spots, it's arguably bigger, a higher magnitude than what the Texas A&M visitor list was. And that's saying something considering we remember who all was on campus for that weekend.
Absolutely. So a lot of guys and a lot of high-quality guys who are going to be in town as well, some heavy hitters. I think I heard 4 5-star guys. Does that sound right to you?
Sure does.
Man.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. A lot of really, really good recruits on campus, a lot of top caliber recruits. And like I said, in some areas, it's bigger than what it was against Texas A&M. One of those positions is the running back position. Some of the high name guys out there. I'm sure you guys have all already heard that Keimon Spell is going to be there. He is the running back that recently decommitted from Penn State. And it makes sense why he's on campus. He has connections to Jaywan Sider. He started Keimon Spell's recruiting process when he was, the former running back coach at Penn State. But right now, Spell's recruitment is relatively open. Georgia and Notre Dame are going to be major players. Those were kind of some of the schools that he had whittled it down to before he officially committed to Penn State. Now that he's decommitted, he's open. And, after talking with Brian, it doesn't sound like he's going to decide anytime soon. But Notre Dame is very well in the mix. Very well.
And he's a 2027 guy, so there's a little bit on him. He's that makes him a junior, correct? If I've got my glasses right, yeah.
Yep. He's currently a junior in high school, but I mean, right now you talk about big time recruits, and this guy this kid is definitely one of them. He is a consensus 5-star per the Rivalries industry rankings. He's the number 1 running back in the 2027 class by all the major services, 247, ESPN, Rivals. So this is a heavy hitter coming to town tomorrow.
Yeah, and you mentioned that connection that he has to Jaywan Sider. Of course, he was committed to Penn State, recently just decommitted from Penn State, but I'm sure that relationship that he's got with Sider, if you're Notre Dame, obviously a Notre Dame fan, you're hoping that goes a long way. And I mean, getting him here is a big thing, especially when you're really just hearing those two schools right now, Notre Dame and Georgia.
2 decent schools to be in the mix with, that's for sure, if you're Keimon Spell. But bright news for Notre Dame is that's not the only big-time running back recruit that's going to be on campus. Amir Brown, another 2027 kid. He was the running back that recently decommitted from North Carolina. a lot of attention is going to Keemon Spell, and I understand why. But the name that I would keep my eye out on is Amir Brown. I spoke with Brian earlier today. We really like where Notre Dame is at here. They stayed on him despite his commitment to North Carolina. So Notre Dame is absolutely a major player for fellow 2027 running back Amir Brown. Definitely another one to keep your eye on.
So who are some of the other, because again, I know that there are a lot of running back, from what I understand, is probably the top of the list in terms of both quality and quantity. Who are some of the other running back names to know who are going to be here this weekend?
Yeah, another 2027 kid, Noah Roberts. He's a top 100 player. Notre Dame is in the mix. They have a little bit more to do on this one, but it's good to get him on campus. And then they have a pair of 2028 running backs, Zayden Jernigan and Xander Edwards. Xander Edwards is the son of Mark Edwards, former Notre Dame player. If Notre Dame makes a run at him, they'll have a really, really good shot. But the two 2028 kids, look, if you can think of a dream 2028 running back class, Jernigan and Edwards would be it. I looked at Jernigan's film earlier today. I was on the phone with Brian. He's an extremely, extremely explosive kid. It's very early in the process. I mean, we talked about kind of being early in the process with some 2027 kids. Zayden Jernigan's a 2028 kid. He's not going to commit tomorrow. Like just spoiler alert, it's very early in the process, but it's important to get him on campus this early. You think about the big time games going on this weekend, and he decided to come to Notre Dame. I think that speaks quite a bit, considering you have Ole Miss, Georgia, Vandy, LSU. There's a lot of other places that he could have been at. He wanted to spend his weekend in South Bend. This whole recruiting visit for Zayden Jernigan, it's about getting him on campus and starting to build the relationship with him and get him in the mix with Notre Dame early.
Trevor Trowbridge talked a little Notre Dame football recruiting. So those are the running backs. Defensive line sounds like another pretty stacked position, and Al Washington has been doing pretty well there, especially with this current 2026 class. He's got some studs locked up. Feels like maybe some of what he has done here has given him some momentum going toward 27 and the 28 classes.
Oh, absolutely. The quality defensive lineman that Al Washington has, put together on this list of the 2027 and 2028 kids that are visiting, it's some of the best that we've seen, in quite some time. And like you said, Sean, it's a byproduct of finishing strong in 26. You had Rodney Dunham, you had Ebenezer Utade, you got Tiki Hola, and you got Elijah Golden. Those are really heavy-hitting names, and it's led to some of these big-name kids being on campus. Some of the bigger news are the Jacobs brothers, DJ Jacobs and Dawson Jacobs. DJ's class of 2027, and then Dawson is class of 2028. I believe they're both teammates with Teddy Gerard, but here's the thing to keep your eye on. They're both on campus this weekend without Teddy Gerard. They're coming up again to visit, but without kind of their connection to the program. I think that starts to speak to the relationship that they have with Al Golden. So definitely a good one to keep your eye out on. DJ Jacobs, he's elite, man. He's a top 25 caliber overall player. He's really twitchy. He's long. He's athletic. It's everything you want in a top-tier edge rusher, and it's to the surprise of nobody that everybody wants him. So the fact that he's making a second in-season game day trip tells you a lot where Notre Dame stands, and they're going to be a major player for DJ Jacobs moving forward.
What about some interior guys, the big dogs in the middle? Any of those guys on campus this weekend?
Yeah, absolutely. Keep your eye on Isaac Miller. He's a 2027 interior player. He is a dude. When I was talking with Brian, that was the first thing that he said. And if he were texting it out, dude would be in all caps. Isaac Miller is absolutely one to keep your eye out on. And then there's two brothers, one in the class of 2028. And it's never too early, Sean, to start getting ready for the class of 2029. So Marcus Fakatu and then his brother Noke Fakatu. This is their third trip to campus. Marcus is a stud. He's 6'5", he's 290 pounds, and he's in the class of 2028. To give you an idea of how big this kid is. Notre Dame needs to beef up their defensive line recruiting. This is exactly what they're doing to take the steps. And Sean Davis said it best, one of the RTCF shows that him and I did together. You want these kids, already assembled. I forgot the exact term that Sean Davis used. I loved it though, and I wish I could remember it so I could steal it. But these are some ready to go kids, and it's good to get them up on campus.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. All right. Any other defensive linemen worth noting then?
Couple. Keep your eye on Darian Prescott, class of 2028. This is his second trip up to South Bend. Make sure you keep your eye on him. Chris Whitehead, 2027. He is an elite top 10 prospect. On Irish Breakdown, we talk all the time about being a gap closer. Chris Whitehead is a gap closer. This is his second trip to campus. Not a second game day visit, but his second trip up to campus. It's good to get him inside the stadium at nighttime to see Notre Dame USC. And then Asher Giotto, he's a power end. He's in the class of 2028. He visited this summer for Irish Invasion. I remember seeing him going through drills. Notre Dame is putting themselves in a really good position with Giotto early in the process.
So let's stay on the defensive side of the ball then. Mike Mickens has, done very well, obviously, in the last few years with his recruiting. It continues to go at a very strong pace, both recruiting and development. What about guys that would fall into that category this weekend?
Yeah, man. Anybody who's been following Mike Mickens shouldn't be surprised that there's an elite group of guys coming up on campus this weekend. Mike Mickens is doing a fantastic job. First name to keep your eye out on is Xavier Hassan, 2027 cornerback. This is somebody that Mickens has been targeting for a long time. He's an elite talent. He's very, very physical, and he brings a lot of positional flexibility. He has the opportunity where he could play multiple positions on the back end, a common theme that we've seen from some of the other guys that Mike Mickens has brought in the past. We talked about Dallas Golden playing multiple positions, Tay Johnson being able to play multiple positions, Brandon Logan being able to play multiple positions on the back end. So Xavier Hassan is somebody to keep your eye out on. Notre Dame is in a great position with Xavier Hassan. That is for sure. Another corner, keep your eye on, class of 2027. Actually, every DB recruit that they're bringing in that are premier, it's class of 2027. Next one is Ace Alston. Notre Dame is in a great position with Alston. They might even be the team to beat here. And then you have a safety in Gavin Williams. He's tall, he's rangy, smart. He can cover, he can hit, he can make a ton of plays on the ball. Notre Dame's in a decent spot with him. There's still some work to do, but it's one of those situations, Sean, where you've seen it, I've seen it, Brian has seen it. A good visit can go a long way here. You have Duve Williams. He's another corner in the class of 27. Similar story with Gavin Williams. Still some work to do here. Notre Dame's in a decent spot. Getting him on campus for this game is really good. And then last guy, Larry Moon is an interesting recruit. Another 27 cornerback. He's a big-time player, but he hasn't been on campus since Irish Invasion of 2024.
Wow.
So a year from this past one. So he's at IMG Academy now. It's definitely good to have him back on campus as well.
From what I understand, the tight end class of 2027 is like really high nationally, but sounds like maybe Notre Dame isn't quite sure exactly who they're after, but they do have a pretty good group of tight ends coming in this weekend, it sounds like.
Yeah, absolutely. And one of the things that I love that they're doing is they're bringing both of their 2026 commits, Ian Premer and Preston Frizzell, on campus to kind of help, I guess, facilitate the vision of what Mike Denbrock wants to do on offense. But this weekend, it's all about, can the staff find out who their top guys are? They have to choose who they want. We saw Seneca Driver, Jack Brown, and Titus Hawk. Those are three of the four guys coming. We saw them in Irish Invasion. And then Notre Dame might be the team to beat for Jackson Dollar. They're in a great position for the other three. Notre Dame might be the team to beat for Dollar. But those are the four tight ends coming up, all in the class of 2027. Seneca Driver, Jackson Dollar, Jack Brown, and Titus Hawk. Basically, Notre Dame just kind of has to whittle out who their guy is going to be, and that's going to be huge.
Wide receiver is interesting because they've got like two, again, like of the 5 stars, I think 2 of them are wide receivers, right? Jameer Brown is one of them. He's committed to Ohio State, but he is here this weekend. I don't think it's his first visit to Notre Dame either, so he's returning. Like, what's your feel? Do they have a chance with this guy?
Yeah, getting him back on campus is huge, and it's one, he's a 5-star recruit. He's a massive recruit, and like you said, he's already an OSU commit, wide receiver in the class of 2027. One of the things that I like that they're doing is they're having him meet on campus with 4 of the 5 2026 recruits. He's going to be up on campus, and he's going to be surrounded by Dylan Faison, Devin Fitzgerald, Braden Robinson, and Caden Finley. And that's going to be huge for him to kind of surround himself with other people who've bought into the vision of what Notre Dame is trying to build on offense. So it's going to be huge to have him up on campus. And then, of course, the 5-star wide receiver, Monchin Sales, class of 2027. Love the effort that Notre Dame is putting in here. They're making him a priority. Now, they're still trailing other teams, but the fact that he's making his second visit to campus is definitely a good sign, Sean.
And this is an Indianapolis guy as well, right? So like not too far away, a guy who could easily kind of keep returning here if he wants to, and that kind of thing. And I have to think that it also helps. We've been talking for the last couple of years about, okay, if the passing game takes off, how does that impact wide receiver recruiting? I would think that these guys have to be looking at C.J. Carr. It's like now you have the vision right in front of you of what this can be and what you can be in the Mike Denbrock Notre Dame offense.
Yeah, I mean, Manchin Sales is 6'5", 195 pounds, and is still in high school. I'm sure he's going to take one look at Malachi Fields on Saturday and be like, yeah, I see where I could fit into this offense. That's for sure.
All right, what about quarterback? Not a lot of quarterbacks, I don't think, in town this weekend, are there?
No, Noah Grubbs is going to be in town. He's the 2026 kid, but they have some. The one to keep your eye out on is Travion Towns, 2028 kid. We saw him at Irish Invasion. He has a live arm, and he can absolutely rip it, but it's not as fluid as some of the other passers that we've seen. But good news is he's back on campus on his own dime. And now that Notre Dame has their 2027 quarterback lockdown, Gino Guidugli and the rest of the offensive staff can turn their attention to 2028.
And the other thing is, like you've talked about, like Noah Grubbs, for example, he's already committed. And there are a lot of other, I think I've got a number here, unless you have the number of like guys who are committed. 22 players already committed are going to be on campus this weekend. How important is it, do you think, for those guys who are already committed to keep coming back on visits like this?
Oh, extremely important. Some of the best recruiters in classes that we've seen have been members of classes. C.J. Carr kind of spearheaded his class. We've talked about on the defensive side, other players playing key roles. And I don't think it's a mystery that, you look at who Notre Dame is bringing on campus. In the defensive backfield, they're bringing Xavier Hassan, Ace Alston, guys like that. And I don't think it's a mystery that Notre Dame is also going to be surrounding them with Joey O'Brien and Nick Reddish and Kari Adams and Aiden Pouncey. You have at linebacker, Jacoby Clapper and Ellis McGaskin are coming back. Those are two linebackers, one in the 26 and 27 class. So there's a lot of, I think, intentionality around who they're surrounding some of these guys with. Manchin Sales and Jameer Brown are going to be in town. Also the same weekend that Caden Finley, Dylan Faison, Devin Fitzgerald, and Braden Robinson are also going to be in town. So when I look at this from a recruiting perspective, like a recruit's point of view, you kind of hear a lot of the same spiels from coaches no matter where you go at top-tier programs. Hey, this is where you fit in our offense. This is what we would like for you to do. But it's easier to talk to somebody closer to your age that's gone through the process, that's in high school, that can relate to you a little better what that's going to look like for you. I love the move by bringing back all these other recruits.
All right. Have you been to a Notre Dame-USC game before?
I was at the 2023 game.
2 years ago. Got to see him torment Caleb Williams.
Sure did. Yeah, I sure did. Oh, it's great.
Looking forward to this one. Are you nervous? Are you excited? You're coming into town again this weekend?
Yep, I'll be up there. I'll be wandering around campus. My wife and two of our best friends will be moseying around campus starting at probably like 11 in the morning. But I'm at the point now where like I'm past the excitement. Now I'm just anxious. Like I'm ready for kickoff.
Get it on.
So, yep.
That's exactly right. All right, Trevor Trowbridge for the third time this week on this show. Appreciate you, as always, talking a little Notre Dame football recruiting. And you can find more by going to the Champions Lounge at irishbreakdown.com, the premium Champions Lounge. You'll find all kinds of intel pieces there, whether it's recruiting, stuff during the season, stuff out of season, and everywhere else. So you will find it there, irishbreakdown.com and the Champions Lounge. Thanks, Trevor. I will maybe see you tomorrow, depending on if our paths cross or not.
Here's hoping.
All right. Sounds good. Thanks, Trevor.
Thanks, man.
We will take a timeout, and when we come back, Vince and I will get into the matchup a little bit more. Notre Dame and Southern Cal, 7:30, Notre Dame Stadium, Saturday night. Budweiser's Weekday Sports Beat with irishbreakdown.com. Budweiser's Weekday Sports Beat with IrishBreakdown.com. I'm Sean Stiers. I'm joined right now by the man with a Jeweled Shillelagh tattooed on his fourth point of contact, Vince D'Addario. Ladies and gentlemen, how are you tonight?
I'm doing fantastic, and my Jeweled Shillelagh has a lot of shamrocks on it. So
a lot of shamrocks, no four-leaf clovers, though.
Oh,
there is a difference, you know.
That was pointed out to you, was it not?
It was. It was
Yeah.
pointed out.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Well, whatever it's supposed to be, that's what it is. How about that?
They're magically delicious either way.
This is true. Although marshmallows and cereal is gross.
Well, I mean, if you let them get soggy, they're gross. If they don't get too soggy, I used to like Lucky Charms when I was
Did
young.
you?
It's been a million years since I've eaten them, though.
That's gonna say you
I
don't.
really just like picking out the marshmallows out of the Lucky Charms. Is what
So
I
you're
like.
just a big fan of them fries or those dry
freeze-dried.
Freeze-dried. Thank you. Freeze-dried marshmallows. Like,
Yeah.
My
That's
kids
right.
like it. I just never been a fan.
Yeah.
Never been a fan.
Yeah. Notre Dame, Southern Cal, Saturday night, 7:30. Shout out, by the way, Fighting Irish Media for that Notre Dame, Southern Cal hype video they put out.
They nailed that.
Very well done with the Bon Jovi living. What was it? Keep the Faith. I was
Yeah.
about to say, because everyone, living on a prayer, of course, everyone. But Keep the Faith was in that one. Good stuff.
It was very well done. Not that Fighting Irish Media doesn't do a good job, with what they do, but specifically with every highlight being against USC and just, I mean, it was just glorious.
A lot of good stuff. A lot
all
of good stuff.
Yeah.
Tommy Z punt return was in there.
Oh,
And
it's
just,
good.
oh man, all kinds of good Notre Dame SC memories in there. Well, let's talk about this week's game. We've come to the end of the road, of course. We're here at the end of the week. It's coming up tomorrow. And the big news here at the end of the week, you weren't on yesterday. Defensive tackle Gabe Rubio is going to be out with an elbow injury. We don't know what's going to happen with nickel, slot, corner, whatever you want to call him. Devontae Smith could be out again with a calf injury, making who covers Trojan slot receiver. Mekhi Lemon, brings that into question. So as you look at those two things, Vince, you've got middle of the defensive line. You've got a, very important coverage position. Which concerns you the most?
Honestly, the lack of Gabriel Rubio actually concerns me the most. I have a lot of faith in Notre Dame's secondary and kind of what they're going to be able to do and just some different looks they're going to be able to throw at USC. But the resurgence, I guess, of USC's running game and kind of what they've been able to accomplish. I mean, it's nothing, extraordinary, but better than what they've done. And Gabriel Rubio was a huge part of Notre Dame's run defense the last few weeks and what Notre Dame was able to do to limit the other team's run game. And so that honestly worries me more than the pass game. So it's Gabriel Rubio for me. When I saw him on the injured list, I was like, oh, that's a huge blow.
I know. Honestly, to me, I'm going the other way. It's Devontae Smith for me because, I mean, we saw what happened last week with Devontae Smith out. NC State's lone touchdown came on that long pass against the slot receiver, that now it wasn't an issue all game long. They got things correct. But I do think that the level of what they're going to see this week with Lemon, and not just Lemon, across the board at wide receiver, they've got some other dudes who can go out there and get it as well. But, like that specific one, I think, that's got me concerned. I feel like while Gabe Rubio is definitely the best and most physical of their interior guys and one of the bigger guys at that position that they've got as well, just that road grader type guy, I feel like they've got enough with the other guys to kind of piecemeal it together. They're still only averaging a little over 3 yards a carry, like against them. Now, again, Gabe Rubio is part of that, but I feel like I think we're all going to be watching Elijah Hughes a little bit more now because we're anticipating, one, that he's going to have to play more, and two, of course, this is his old team that he's going to be going against Saturday night.
That's true. I didn't think about that connection. It's absolutely accurate. I hope you're right. I hope that the Notre Dame run defense is stout and they do what they need to do and all of those different things. I just minorly worried at this point about that particular part of it, because I do think the focus will be on the pass game, and I don't want them to forget about the run defense.
Let's just go ahead. I'll play this cut that I've got here for you. They talked about Notre Dame, Southern Cal on the College Football Inquirer podcast in their latest edition here at the end of the week, and Andy Staples talked a little bit about it. Here's what he had to say.
The question is, can this USC team hold up against a roster that is built on the line of scrimmage like a national title contender? And that's the biggest question, because Michigan isn't there right now. Michigan is sort of that second echelon of the Big Ten. Notre Dame up front can absolutely bully you. So this USC defensive front that held up well against Michigan last week, that looked better than Oklahoma did against Michigan's run game, that looked better than the other teams Michigan's played. Can it hold up against this Notre Dame offensive line and the combo of Jeremiah Love and Jadarian Price? I don't know. This is going to be a big test for them, because I think if they just get bulldozed, you get very frustrated if you're a USC fan, because it's like, okay, when does this part end?
All right, so Andy Staples very bullish on Notre Dame's trenches in this matchup with Southern Cal. Are you as bullish? Do you think Notre Dame has a clear advantage in this game, Vince?
So I'm bullish on it, but not to the degree that I've been bullish on it in the past, if that makes sense. I still think it's an advantage for Notre Dame against USC. I do. And I do think the talent level is there, because he was specifically talking about Notre Dame's offense versus USC's defense. And I do think Notre Dame has the talent to do it on the offensive line. And just, we've seen it before. We've seen it many times when USC comes across the country to Notre Dame and Notre Dame just runs the ball right down their throat. USC generally gives up. Like they're like they quit essentially up front.
Right.
And once that happens, it's like, okay, you knew. You know what I mean? Like, we know that this is here we go. Do I think that's possible in this matchup? I do. But I also think the margin has gotten a little bit closer, okay? Notre Dame still has the advantage, but I do think the margin is a little bit closer. So, and then you throw into the fact that there's a new starting center and Joe Otting. I think that's a big piece of it.
Exactly.
So where I thought Notre Dame had a massive advantage with their interior offensive line, still an advantage, but it's not a massive advantage. So that's where I'm at. I do think it's an advantage for Notre Dame.
And that's the thing. I mean, I agree. I think it's a slight advantage in this game. Neither Notre Dame line has been as close to dominant as last year, I think. They've still been good, but they haven't just flat out whipped somebody yet, like starting off with the fact that they went up against a couple of really good, teams that are built for, within the lines as well in Miami and Texas A&M to open up the season. Just like we said, coming off those two games, they have naturally looked better these last four games because none of the lines that they have faced were either Miami or Texas A&M. So they've looked better as a result. Now, USC is neither Miami nor Texas A&M, but they're probably the third best of all the teams that Notre Dame has faced so far. I would probably slot them right behind them. And then you do throw in the fact that you're not going to have your center. You're not going to have Ashton Craig. You're on your second center. And on the other side, we just talked about it. You're not going to have your best interior defensive lineman, Gabe Rubio. So it's piecemealed a little bit. And if USC, like if you're USC, I think you're thinking, okay, let's try to bully these guys early on and see what happens. See if we can kind of, get the upper hand in a place that we haven't been able to get the upper hand against this team in a while.
I think that I said this earlier on in the week that if, USC is looking at this and they're like, yeah, we're going to go in there and we're going to bully Notre Dame, it's probably not the right plan. I don't know that that's going to be the way to get this game, to your favor. Now, if they come in with that plan and they're able to do that, more power to you. Like that's a hat tip moment. You know what I mean? It's like, okay, congratulations. You guys came into Notre Dame. and you pushed them around. Like, that'll be a very interesting post-game show, Sean, if that ends up happening.
For sure.
But if I'm Lincoln Riley, I don't think that should be your focus. I don't know that that's the strength of your team if you're USC. So I don't know that you should really be angling for that as your strength. But as a Notre Dame fan, I hope they do, because I think it'll.
But like offensively, they're already averaging over 6 yards a carry and over 200 rushing yards per game. It's actually pretty impressive what they're doing right now. They've also only given up 4 sacks this season. Then you flip it to the other side of the ball, like Notre Dame, they're rushing for 172 and 4.7 a game. They've allowed 9 sacks. They have 15 of their own. Like, numbers wise, USC's numbers look better. But what do I always say? Stats are for losers, right? Like,
yeah.
But, you do have to take into account, okay, Notre Dame opened up against Texas A&M and Miami. USC opened up against Missouri State and Georgia Southern. So those numbers do help pad it out a little bit.
No, 100%. And I don't want to say, well, who has USC played? Because then everybody will, who's Notre Dame played? Like, I don't want to.
It still looked really good. And Miami specifically has looked really good. Like even throw those first 2 games out, they're still putting up offensive numbers. There's no doubt about that.
Right. And I do think that those numbers are something that you need to pay attention to. But I wouldn't just look at this as like on paper, like, oh, USC should dominate Notre Dame's defense. You know what I mean? So like, and I'm not saying that you're saying that. I'm saying that in general, because there are plenty of people out there that are just looking at the numbers and being like, USC is going to dominate Notre Dame, and offensively it's going to be a shootout, and all of these different things. And so, look, USC is going to have to throw the football. They're going to have to throw the football to be successful. They can't just be the bully up front. So we'll see how it goes. And I think weather is also going to play a factor.
Yeah, and that's what, when we started up the show, and before the show started today, I was looking at the YouTube chat, and people were talking about the weather. And, of course, the rain is supposed to come as soon as kickoff comes Saturday night, so that's going to be part of this whole deal as well. The fact that we do have a primetime game, and that's when it's supposed to start raining. Now, we do still have more than 24 hours, and forecasts can shift a little bit.
It's already kind of pushing back a little bit from what it was, because obviously I'm looking at weather for Hillsdale, where I'm going to be sitting outside, and I was looking at, it was supposed to start raining at game time, which is 1:00. Now it says 3:00. So like, things are being pushed back just a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
And so, what does that mean for over here? So we'll see. So you're right. Weather can change, but it's supposed to be kind of nasty, windy, rainy, the whole deal. So it will be a factor. How much of a factor, I think, remains to be seen, but it is going to be a factor in the game.
It's going to be some kind of factor.
Yeah.
There's no doubt about it. I mean, honestly, who holds on to the ball the best in that case is going to be the biggest factor in the whole thing, because you can talk about rain and who it benefits, and both teams want to throw the ball. You've got 2 of the best quarterbacks, the way they're playing in the country in this matchup, and in terms of how they throw it. But if it's rainy and windy and everything else, the team that holds on to the ball, and probably the team that can run the ball on those lines of scrimmage, is the team that's going to have the most success Saturday night. So what we don't want is a lot of lightning, especially considering the how this is a primetime game. We don't need a 3-hour, even a 1-hour delay, but we don't need a delay that late at night. But there are supposed to be, it's not just supposed to be rain, it's supposed to be thunderstorms with it. That's what scares me the most about this whole thing, is just that we end up getting some kind of delay and we're done at 3 a.m.
Can you even, like, I thought about that this afternoon. I was like, I hate night games to begin with because they're so late. And then if you add in a delay, like, can we just push it to Sunday? Can we just go, can we just let's go with a noon start on Sunday? All right.
Here we go. Let's take a break. When we come back, confidences and concerns that we've got for Notre Dame against Southern Cal Saturday night with Vince D'Addario, Sean Steiner's Budweiser's Weekday Sports Beat with IrishBreakdown.com. Continuing, Budweiser's Weekday Sports Beat with IrishBreakdown.com. Sean Stiers, Vince D'Addario. Vince, your greatest confidence in this matchup, Notre Dame USC, is what?
Well, we just got done talking about the weather and how it's going to play a factor and all of those different things. My confidence is still Notre Dame's pass game against USC's pass defense. I mean, they're 103rd in the country in passing defense. And if I'm Mike Denbrock and CJ Carr and the whole wide receiving core, yes, it's going to be raining, but you still got to play the game. And I still think they're going to be able to be effective through the air. It might be a little bit more selective. Okay, cool. Like, they're still going to have some plays through the air, and I think that could be the difference in the game.
This just in, Vince D'Addario calls for the Brian Kelly rainstorm game plan.
Let's go,
Throw
baby.
the ball as much as possible. And
I
torrential downpour.
I didn't say that. But I do think he's going to I do think there's going to be some big plays in the passing game. You know, look, what would you do if you were trying to go up against Love and Price in the rain? Hey, we're going to blow the box. You know, we're going to do this, that, and the other to stop the run game. It's going to allow some potential in the pass game. That's where I'm at.
No, I agree. And that's what, like, I'm a little, I don't know. It's like my confidence also becomes a little bit of a concern just because of the weather forecast. Because like you said, like CJ Carr is the number 7 pass efficiency quarterback in the nation right now. USC has the number 100 pass efficiency defense. It is the perfect matchup for Notre Dame. So that obviously will be negated to some extent. But then, you know, again, like to your point, which is a good one still, Notre Dame has Jeremiah Love and Jadarian Smith. USC has King Miller, Dr. Dre's nephew, by the way.
Really?
I heard today.
Wow,
I think
okay.
I heard that in that College Football Inquirer podcast. But they have, you know, like not quite the same talent level that Notre Dame has in the backfield. So how effective are they going to be able to be if they have to make it a running game? But then the same thing really applies for them as well. They're still going to have to be able to hit on some passes. I think that they're going to more have to hit some of those passes for their offense to be anywhere nearly as successful as what it's been.
I mean, if Notre Dame can focus on the run game for USC, you know, if Notre Dame's defense focuses on the run game, it's game over. That's going to be the thing. And so then how do you defend USC's pass games? Because they're going to have to throw the ball, to your point. And what does that look like in the rain? So yeah, things just seem to fall Notre Dame's way, no matter how we kind of slice it and dice it. And hopefully that will equal the final score.
Funny how that works, isn't it?
It is, man.
What's the thing that would surprise you the most if it happens?
Well, I mean, outside of USC winning, because that would surprise me. You know, what? Go ahead.
No,
you're coming at me, and that's okay.
No, I wasn't coming at you. Foregone conclusion, yes.
Yeah. What would surprise me? See, this was a tough question because this game, because of the weather, is not going to look like it should look. And so I think there's going to be a lot of things that are going to potentially be surprising. It would surprise me if USC is able to throw the ball all over the yard against this defense. I think that would be the biggest surprise for me. If they try to force it through the air, that could be tough for USC. So if they have success through the air, I would be surprised.
Once again, Vince D'Addario putting on his Chris Ash fan club president t-shirt
I
today.
need to get that hat. My member's hat hasn't come in yet.
I think the thing that would surprise me the most, if I'm going to like dial it down and be specific, is if the Trojans are playing video game offense in the second half. Now, again, weather could have a great impact on this for both teams. But when you look at Notre Dame, for the entire season, Notre Dame has a scoring advantage of 108-33 in the second half. In the last 4 games, it's 75-7. They have outscored opponents 75-7 in the last 4 games. And of course, that 7 came at the tail end of the Purdue game with the reserves on the field. Again, I'm not calling it garbage time, so not going with the G word. But
Don't get in trouble.
But that, that also, Vince, in that stretch includes an Arkansas team that scored 31 points against Tennessee last week, the same Tennessee team that is ranked number 11 in the nation right now. And that same Arkansas team scored 35 points against an Ole Miss team that is ranked number 5 in the nation right now. And I do feel like that kind of gets brushed underneath the rug a little bit, just how good Arkansas's offense still is. Far and away, Arkansas's worst offensive game of the season came against Chris Ash's, / Notre Dame, whoever you want to label it, came against their defense. But, a lot of people kind of disregard the success of Notre Dame's defense against Arkansas in that game. But, if you take away the Notre Dame game, Arkansas is averaging 41 points a game, and that would be good enough for number 12 in the nation right now. So,
well, yeah, to your point, these are the point totals that Arkansas has put up this year: 52, 56, 41, 35, 31, 13, and 31. Like, which one of these is not like the other? I mean,
right.
Notre Dame locked them down defensively. They locked them down, and that was a pretty potent offense. Look, NC State had a pretty potent offense, and Notre Dame absolutely locked them down.
Yes.
So Notre Dame's defense caught flack early on in the season for good reason, by the way, for good reason. But they're not playing the same way that they did at the beginning of the year. Now, huge test tomorrow night. No doubt about it. But we're going to get a lot of answers tomorrow night about this defense. You know what I mean? Like, we got answers last week. I said it early on in the week. Like, I think they've turned the corner. I put in my submission for the Chris Ash fan club, all of those things. But I think we're going to get even more answers this week, and hopefully they're positive answers. But if they're negative answers, we're going back to the drawing board, and we're going to have a different discussion.
That's true. And the last time Notre Dame had a bye week, they had to sit and stew for a week, and then came out of it and had Texas A&M and everything else. So it's going to be interesting. But then the flip side of what I was talking about with like second half, and now how Notre Dame has controlled these second halves again over the last 4 games, they've outscored opponents 75-7. USC has allowed 61 points in the second half over their last 4 games. So a lot different in terms of how, like, halftime adjustments and how these teams have operated in the second half. So I feel like that is a big favor. Like, whatever happens in the first half, it feels like if Notre Dame holds to form, the second half should be a big advantage for Marcus Freeman and his team and his staff.
It's coaching, baby. Like, what you do in the second half, a lot of that's on coaching. And right now, I give the coaching edge to Notre Dame. We'll see what happens on Saturday night, but I give the coaching edge to Notre Dame.
Yep. By the way, I did want to say condolences to the family of former Notre Dame football player Larry Williams. I don't know if you heard about this yesterday, Vince. Larry was a Notre Dame offensive lineman in the mid-'80s. He played for Jerry Faust, but he died unexpectedly yesterday. He was the athletic director at the University of San Francisco. Had a heart-related incident is all I've seen about it. But Larry and I used to host the Notre Dame football coaches show together back many years ago now, it feels like, when it was still at Logan's Roadhouse in Mishawaka. And it's been a few years since I've been to Logan's because it's not quite as close to where I live right now. We used to go there fairly frequently. But, the last time I was there, like, if you go in the entryway, there's this montage up on the wall of these photos from the coaches shows. We did both the football and Mike Bray's coaches show, the basketball coaches show there. But in one of those photos, there was a picture of Larry and I, like, up in there. Like, they weren't real big photos, so you kind of had to squint, to tell who was in them, I think. But so Larry and I used to do that together at Logan's Roadhouse. He was an All-American, though, Notre Dame offensive lineman, played in the NFL for several years, and he was an AD. He left here and went to become the AD at Portland, and he worked at Marquette, Akron, and at San Francisco. He and his wife, Laura Lee, was also a Notre Dame alum. She played tennis for Notre Dame. So condolences to her and their kids and the rest of Larry's family as well. Larry Williams, great guy, and obviously a very great football player for Notre Dame. So really sad to hear about that happening yesterday. We will take a break. When we come back, a rapid fire. We're going to hit some Notre Dame USC topics. And I think, as usual, we'll have some fun doing it. That's coming up next. Budweiser's Weekday Sports Beat with IrishBreakdown.com. It's hour 2 of Budweiser's Weekday Sportsbeat with IrishBreakdown.com, and it is a sprint of a rapid fire today. Vince, are you ready for it?
I mean, I'm 44. I don't know how ready I am to sprint, but
well, you were dancing there. You were doing a little.
I was. I'm a heck of a chair dancer, baby. But we'll see. Let's go. Let's sprint, baby. Let's go.
I tried dancing for about 30 seconds at Jesse's wedding a couple weeks ago. Did not look good, and I just.
In your defense, though, Sean Stiers, you didn't have your life partner to dance
with.
No,
I didn't. And my saving grace is she's no more of a dancer than I am. So, she did the one mother-son dance, and,
good
and
for
that
her.
was it.
Good for her, though. Considering her situation, good for her. That's impressive all by itself. But
yeah.
And my wife and I follow the very same trend that you two follow, so I'm with you on that one. Yeah.
I have not mentioned tonight. I am Tenzin. I am the son of Aang is asking in the YouTube chat who's on after this sprint of a rapid fire. There's Notre Dame men's basketball tonight. It begins. The pregame starts at 6:30. Their exhibition game against Butler. So that's why we have to conclude a little bit early. These kind of things are going to start happening now with both hockey, Notre Dame hockey, and Notre Dame men's basketball on this station. So we'll have some nights like this, and this is one of them where we will have some abbreviated shows. So let's just stop with all the tomfoolery and get right into it. So,
yes,
speaking of tomfoolery, the nation's leader in bad hot takes gave a bad hot take on the future of the Notre Dame Southern Cal series the other day. The nuts and bolts of this take is that Notre Dame needs it more than Southern Cal, and the Trojans should just end it and go their own way. I'm intentionally not saying the name of this hot taker, by the way. So do you, Vince, have anything to say about this?
Well, first of all, it's not surprising since the hot taker is based in LA and he's a huge USC fan. So I am not surprised that he would come up with a take like this. Look, I'm not going to be naive. Both schools benefit from this rivalry. They do. Both schools benefit. Notre Dame's a national brand. They don't benefit as much as USC does. USC gets a ton of eyeballs on their product when they play Notre Dame. Period. End of discussion. So they absolutely benefit more than Notre Dame does because Notre Dame always has the eyeballs on them. USC does not always have the eyeballs on them. But when they play Notre Dame, they do. So USC may not think that they benefit from this series, but they'll figure it out real quick when they no longer have this series in their back pocket.
Yeah, so here are a couple things that Hot Takes McGee is leaving out of his freezing cold take. It's not surprising that he's leaving out vital information, by the way, though, because he's very good at padding his takes with fluff, that fits his narratives, So first and foremost, Southern Cal has one loss coming into this game. And the best team that they played so far is either Illinois or Michigan. They beat Michigan. They lost to Illinois, so who's the best of those two? I guess they'll figure that out at some point. But with one loss as of right now, newsflash, Southern Cal is still alive for a playoff berth if they run the table, So Notre Dame is very beneficial to Southern Cal, contrary to the take that he was giving. This is not one-sided in terms of who benefits from this game. It's beneficial to whoever wins this game because the winner stays alive for a playoff berth. That's not just Notre Dame, So that negates, a big part of this argument that he had. Second, hot take Harry also talks about the fact that Southern Cal's schedule is it's like playing a Big Ten schedule is some gauntlet, and that's just not the case. We have done our best to debunk that myth every time we get a chance. But, let's look at their big picture schedule. They started off with Missouri State, a lower level FBS team. They played FCS Georgia Southern. It's basically the Indiana scheduling blueprint that they're going with, but their Big Ten schedule is Purdue, Michigan State, Illinois, Michigan, Nebraska, Northwestern, Iowa, Oregon, UCLA. Come on. stop acting like playing a Big Ten schedule means you're playing a who's who of college football every week, because it's not. Hot takes, McGillicuddy. It's just not. So Notre Dame and Illinois are the only two teams in the nation that have now played two currently ranked top 10 teams. But everybody takes shots at Notre Dame's schedule because of the ACC teams that they play and the fact that they put together their own schedule. Meanwhile, the Big Ten is the only Power 4 conference that still has not mandated that their teams have to play a 10th game against a Power 4 team in addition to the 9 conference games that they play, even though the Big Ten was the one pushing all these other conferences to go to a 9-team conference or a 9-game conference schedule. So again, let's just stop acting like playing a Big Ten schedule means something when the Big Ten makes it tougher for the bottom feeders in their conference than they do for the teams at the top. They protect the teams at the top of the conference with these easy schedules every year. And on top of that, his entire argument is about what's good for this year. He's like, it's a very micro argument that he's having. So let's just cancel the longest running intersectional series rivalry in the nation because of what's happening right now. Very myopic. And that's what I think about Hot Takes O'Houlihan's gargantuan freezing cold take.
You were spitting some serious facts, but the various names that you came up with were by far my favorite part of that entire rant.
I'm doing a Lost rewatch right now, so I'm channeling Sawyer right now with all the nicknames.
Oh, it's fantastic. But to your point, okay, USC right now had for their non-conference schedule over the next 3 years, okay, they've got Fresno State, UNLV, and Nevada. That's their non-conference schedule right now. They're not exactly going out there and padding their Big Ten, their gauntlet of a Big Ten schedule with anything in the non-conference. It benefits USC 100% to have Notre Dame on their schedule. It just does.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, if you're like, I think it's very insulting to Southern Cal to say that this only benefits Notre Dame, because again, he's leaving Southern Cal out of the whole playoff conversation right now. Obviously, Notre Dame gets eliminated if they lose this game. And they need to win this game because Notre Dame needs to win every game the rest of the year, not just a team like USC that happens to be ranked right now. But again, USC only has one loss. So if they run the table, they're probably going to be in the college football playoff as well.
Yeah,
but they need a win over Notre Dame to be able to do that. So it's not a one-sided deal. They need each other because they're quality opponents. And when you look at the teeth of what they're going to get in the Big Ten, the only team that has any more teeth, of what USC is going to play the rest of the way is Oregon. And I think we're going to find out just how quality Oregon's win over Penn State was, for example. I mean, look at how differently that looks right now. We're going to find out what Oregon really is in, over the next several weeks. But Notre Dame has already played their two toughest teams. It's just that USC has Notre Dame and then Oregon down the line. So like when you look at the schedules and the impact and the whole thing, it kind of balances out in the long run. And again, Southern Cal needs Notre Dame just as much as Notre Dame needs Southern Cal for the playoff argument.
It's mutually beneficial. I mean, we can all agree on that. It's mutually beneficial. And I've heard some people talking about how this is a de facto playoff game, a play-in game, essentially. And I don't disagree with that. In my preseason, whatever, we picked the playoff. I had USC in there. I think they're a good quality football team. It benefits Notre Dame that they're ranked 20th in the country right now. No doubt about it. But it also benefits USC that Notre Dame's ranked 13th, that they can come away with the victory here. So, again, mutually beneficial.
Scale of 1 to 10, what's your confidence that tomorrow's Notre Dame Southern Cal game will not be the last time we see these two rivals play?
It's a 10. I think they'll absolutely play again. I'm hoping, obviously, that it's going to be every single year, that kind of a deal. I could see where it goes, like what you have been saying all week of how it could be, 4 years on, 2 years off, like that kind of deal. I could see that too. Don't want to. I want it to be annual, obviously, but they're going to figure it out to where they at least play again at some point. I absolutely believe that. They're not just going to leave it in the dust. It will happen at some point.
Pete Bavacqua was on the very reputable radio program, the Dan Patrick Show, earlier today. Not a hot take machine, but a good interviewer, good conversationalist, all around good fun. Likes to have other people around him and not just hear the sound of his own voice. So like
Novel concept.
Appreciate a guy like like Dan Patrick. But Pete Bavacqua sounded very confident that it's going to happen. So I'm a 10 out of 10 as well. There's some hand wringing because as of right now, there's nothing definite, going on in the future. But I do think that they will play. They're doing their best. And he talked about how they're looking at future schedules to see where it makes sense and things like that. And I do think that it probably becomes an intermittent series because of the issues that are there for Notre Dame in September because everyone's schedules so far down the road. These games have been scheduled out for a long time, but I think it becomes intermittent, but I do think they end up playing down the road.
I was listening to you guys last night and you were talking about, you get to your seat in the press box and there's like a press release, sitting there. I could see that being the case because we've seen that before.
Couldn't you?
Yeah, 100%.
We've seen that happen before.
Yes, they did that with the NBC contract. Remember,
Right.
we're all wringing our hands trying to figure out what's going to happen there. And it's just a little piece of paper sitting at our seat. In the
That's
press
right.
box.
Little press release.
Yeah.
I'm not guaranteeing that's gonna
No.
happen, but it just feels like, who knows? Maybe because again, like Bavacqua said that today that they're literally, it's almost round the clock negotiations that they're having. Maybe they're trying to get something done before Saturday
awesome.
night. I'm sure they'd both love to be able to announce something that would happen.
Do a little both ADs in the broadcast booth. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
A little announcement made maybe between quarters or something like that. Like, I could see that because it's the game of the week. It's at night. It's all the things
During a rain delay.
Great point. Great point.
If I told you Southern Cal will score 28 points, no more, no less, scale of 1 to 10, what's your confidence Notre Dame wins Saturday night?
It's like a 9. I mean, I would be very, very disappointed if Notre Dame can't get 29 on the board. I feel like Notre Dame's going to score more than 28. So I'd feel very, very good if you guaranteed me USC was going to score 28. I would feel very, very good. I'll say 9 just because, I'll leave it open. But it's 9 out of 10 for me.
And my 9 is because of what we were talking about with the weather earlier.
Yeah, sure.
That's the thing because if weather becomes a major factor, then for both teams, the scoring is going to drop dramatically. So like if weather is not a factor and USC scores 28 points, it's a 10 out of 10 for me that Notre Dame wins the game. The weather is the only thing where I have to leave a little bit of wiggle room there and drop it down to a 9 because I think that Notre Dame's offense, as we've talked about, is like against USC's defense. That's a big mismatch in Notre Dame's favor, and so I like Notre Dame's ability to score points against SC's defense, and I think that 28 is and I think that you could be content with that as well. Like, I don't think I'd be disappointed if Notre Dame's defense gave up 28 because I think that they would, again, Notre Dame would win.
I would be disappointed if it was like 4, double-digit drives where they just, beat down Notre Dame, went for like 75 yards, like 4 different times. Like I would be like, 28. That felt like a rough 28. But I could see there being some big plays and, some things like that, maybe a defensive score potentially or special teams, gaff by Notre Dame, which is possible. It depends on how they get to 28, but to your point, I think that, looking at everybody's predictions and things like that, we're expecting in the 20s. So 28 is not far-fetched at that point.
Scale of 1 to 10. I was going to ask you this earlier. Scale of 1 to 10. What's your confidence we see a special teams play impact tomorrow night's game?
Oh, like a 9.5.
I'm right there as well.
In a game like this, where this is going to sound so cliche, where every inch matters, it's going to matter. And Notre Dame has shown in the past, Marcus Freeman specifically, he is not afraid to do something that's a little unconventional in an unconventional moment to gain an advantage. And I could absolutely see that being the case in this game, because early on, it's going to be very, very important for who gets that upper hand, who gets that advantage. And Marcus Freeman will go for it, man. And so I think special teams is going to be just uber important.
I think it's going to be as well. And I think that Notre Dame special teams are the better coached of the two teams. And again, if weather becomes a factor, you've got a little bit of an advantage, whether it's a fake or whatever it happens to be. I think you've got an advantage in that aspect if you're Notre Dame. Let's look at some of these game props. Notre Dame's favored by 9.5. A lot of late action on the Fighting Irish. I think the line yesterday was still 7 or 7.5, and it's all the way up to 9.5 today. The over-under is 60.5. And again, the only thing that scares me on 60.5 is what the weather is going to do.
I know. The over-under, I think I would be tempted to take the under because of the weather. Obviously, the spread, I'm going to take Notre Dame and give the points. I do think that they could clear 9.5. I think they could win by a couple scores.
9.5 is a lot of points. I think they could, but that is a lot of points, man. Especially, like not knowing what's going to happen. And, as of right now, the weather is supposed to hit at the latest by the second half, so things could get crazy out there. Again, if weather weren't a factor, but Vegas doesn't care about what the weather does as long as the game is played. So I don't think that I would touch either one of them. I'm fairly confident in Notre Dame 9.5, even though it is a big number. They are at home. But personally, I would probably avoid both of them. And I would probably also avoid the passer numbers for the quarterbacks. CJ Carr is 285.5. Jaden Mayava is 287.5. And it just, it makes it, the threat of rain just makes it that much tougher to feel confident in putting anything on those.
Passing and receiving props are going to be a tough one to get after this week. No doubt about it. You know what the funny thing, Sean, my prediction that's over on irishbreakdown.com, the total of my prediction, my score prediction, I just realized this because I just added it up in my head, is 61 points.
Is it really?
Yeah. 37-24.
Wow.
So,
and the receiving numbers for Notre Dame, Faison's is 61.5, Raridan 36.5, Pauling 44.5, Malachi Fields 51.5.
Yeah, like I said, the receiving numbers are going to be tough. I mean, I think I would be fairly confident in like Eli Raridan. I think he could be
the lower numbers basically.
But I also think he's going to be a popular target in the rain. You know what I mean? Like over the middle, things like that.
Shorter passes. Yeah,
exactly. Will Pauling at the slot, I could see him getting some numbers. That kind of a deal. But yeah, receiving numbers, I don't know that this is the week to really be getting excited about those.
Love's rushing total is 90.5. Price is 70.5.
I mean, those are both big numbers, but if we think that Notre Dame is going to be really running the football a decent chunk, then those aren't bad numbers.
Because if we're scared with the passing numbers, factoring the weather into it, I think that you have to feel good about the rushing numbers.
Right. I agreed. I would stay away from Love's receiving numbers, but I would take a shot on Love and Price in their numbers. I would.
Honestly, I feel a little more confident in Prices, not just because it's 20 yards below Love's, but again, like wet field and that kind of thing, the style of runner that Jadarian Price is.
Doesn't he feel more like the Kentucky Derby?
A little bit of a mutter.
Exactly. You took the words right out of my mouth. That's exactly what I was thinking. That's Jadarian Price, man. Yep. You run Price, you get those tough yards, in the slop, and then you just pop it over the top to Eli Raridan,
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Irish for Life 99 wants a show of hands of who all's coming to the IB tailgate tomorrow. I can make no guarantees, again, between weather and other things scheduled. I know Trevor's going to be out there pretty early. Sounds like he's getting to campus at around 11, so he'll be out there. Brian Driscoll always tweets the photo of the poll that he's going to be at, so you can look for that. We were talking about the cereals earlier. Andre Tonsil with Captain Crunch, the Crunch Berry Captain Crunch.
Ooh,
that's the best cereal right there.
Interesting.
Yeah, Crunch.
I go in waves. Like I go in waves, whether I like, a sugary cereal or, a non-sugary cereal, for example. I go back and forth. I can't eat the same thing just over and over and over. I've got to vary it. I got to mix it up.
We weren't allowed to have the sugary cereals when I was a kid, so it's like I think it took until college before I finally
no kidding.
got it. So
I was a big CTC guy, Cinnamon Toast Crunch.
Oh, Cinnamon Toast Crunch. That
man.
came a little bit later. All right. Well, we've got Notre Dame and Southern Cal, 7:30 Saturday night at Notre Dame Stadium. And again, don't forget the good old game day show gets going at 3:00 Saturday afternoon over at the Linebacker, 3 to 6:30. They will be there. Tim Growl, Jimmy Rosari, Eric Hansen, Tyler Horka. They've got a great guest lineup. As always, former Notre Dame and Indianapolis Colts safety Matthias Farley, former Notre Dame linebackers Torian Smith and Carlo Calabrese will be there as well. So make sure you tune in for the game day show. Starts at 3:00 tomorrow. They're live at the Linebacker. And of course, before every Notre Dame game as well. For the home games, they're at the Linebacker, though. 3:00 Eastern Time, Sports Radio WSBT and the Sports Radio WSBT app. Vince, I will see you soon.
Yeah, baby. Let's do it. Go Irish. Go Chargers.
Have a great weekend and enjoy the game Saturday night. Of course, you'll hear it right here on Sports Radio WSBT, Sunday 101.5, and the Notre Dame Radio Network. You can find it streaming live on the Odyssey app, AUDACY. We will talk to you tomorrow. Notre Dame men's basketball coming up next. The Fighting Irish and Butler on the way.